We're live.
Hey guys, this is Arpan from Red Army Kolkata, and we are back today. And guess what? Today, you guys wanted to discuss about transfer, how the season went, and we have the right person to discuss that, discuss everything. We have with us Ed Allen's with us. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Well, I'm doing great. How is the situation? How is the pandemic situation going on over there?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of continuing as we've been for quite a few months now, as everyone knows, just people trying to be careful, I think, and hoping that people can go back to school in the next couple of weeks, but we're not too sure at the moment what's going to happen. It's all kind of a bit up in the air still.
Yes, absolutely. Everything is pretty haywire even here. So and Manchester United had a pretty grim ending to their season. I think for us Manchester United fans, that has also added up to the miseries of the 2020 because losing to three semi-finals is not a really good feeling. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's right to say that's never happened before, has it? So it's pretty, gutting and a representation of where they're at the moment on the Solskjaer. There's a lot of promise there, but really, I think if we're sitting here next season and the same things happen, he's going to be maybe a bit in trouble. I don't know. You'd want more now with the promise that there is there, and the fact they got to three semi-finals. There'll be a real determination to make up for that. I think because there'll be to lose one is that happens. Two, it's unfortunate, but three, there's obviously some kind of mental block a bit. I don't know, but they need to come out. They need to get out of their systems quickly. I think in the new season and try and start really, really well because there's obviously a lot of promise in that team as we saw at the end of the season.
Apart from the promise, there is another thing in inexperience. Do you think the inexperience of these players? I don't think many players are there in that team who are really acquainted with semi-final and the pressure of when it's a one-legged tie. It's more of a knockout match. So I don't think there are many players in that team who are used to that kind of a knockout pressure. Do you think the inexperience has contributed to these losses?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's part of it. But I think that if you've got to take each game individually. I think, and certainly the game that against Sevilla, they played quite well in the second half, and they would Sevilla looked the better team in the first half. I thought, even though United went ahead, but Sevilla had all the pressure and they equalised. And then United did well to sort of turn it around and be the team that was on top. And it was just that lack of cutting edge. And I was surprised actually somebody like Garlo maybe could have been sort of person to bring on and score a winning goal, because you just need to freshen it up sometimes. I think if you have the same lineup all the time, and those three have done so well, but it is important to have a bit of competition in there as well, I think. And maybe that cost them in the end, because that they should really have won that game, the chances they created.
Is exactly with the chances from the second half, early in the second half till the 65th minute, I think Manchester United were on top of the game. But having said that, this team does look a bit shaky at times. That primarily because of the lack of depth in the bench, and I think that is something we all the fans across the world are really worried about, because with the rumors going on, Sancho, it feels like it's been going on forever. Oh, I would like to ask you, what do you think about this particular deal? Because it's massive. What do you think?
What, in terms of whether it's going to happen or not, or whether
yeah.
Well, in terms of whether it's going to happen, I think it's still in the balance, and Dortmund have been very strong about. We thought that we were, it seemed that it was getting close, but Dortmund have sort of dug their heels in and really want a bit more up front, I think, than United at the moment are prepared to pay. But I think there's still a general confidence that it will get done, but it's just that they're going to have to pay a lot of money for it. And obviously, Dortmund they're experienced in this position, and they don't need to accept anything less than they want, I suppose. They don't need the money or anything like that. So it's just a matter of being patient, I think. But Solskjaer definitely wants to get Sancho. It's just whether he wants to get other players as well, and whether that's going to be possible, because I think they obviously need a few other players in certain positions.
Okay, apart from Sancho, the Sancho deal I think has been the most prominent if you look at the news and the media. But apart from Sancho, United are linked with multiple other players. But which one of them do you think suit the United style the best? And if you have somebody else in mind, I would like to know that too.
What, in terms of what position though? It depends really, doesn't it? Because I think there are a lot of people that they're linked with. I don't think, as far as I know, they're not really in any negotiations with anyone. I think they were interested in Gabriel. It looks like he's probably going to go to Arsenal now, a defender from Lille. And I think that's definitely what they're interested in, is sort of another centre back, and potentially maybe a midfielder as well. But yeah, as far as I know, the main target is Sancho. So I don't think they're advanced, certainly nowhere near as advanced as they are with Sancho in terms of talking with the club about a price. So I think but as I say, it's a long way to go. We've got till October, till the end of the window. So, but obviously clubs are trying to get in players as soon as possible. So I think United fans are quite keen for them to get, and I'm sure Solskjaer as well is keen to get a player in before they start the season.
Exactly, but do you not think that the fans are, it's in their rights to be a bit hasty? I'm not saying hasty, but what I mean is they want to expect somebody coming in, because City have already signed, Liverpool are already going on with their business, Chelsea have already signed Timo Werner, and nobody, and we have not even signed the prime target that we wanted. Do you think that there is a transfer policy?
I can understand the concern, yeah, but I think it's a complicated transfer, and it's just so expensive as well. You've got to understand it takes a bit of time to sort it out. But I think now the season's over, I think there'll be a determination to try and get things moving there. Because yeah, like you say, they want to try and get the squad together as soon as possible.
Do you think there is any other place, any other area? Lindelof has been receiving quite the stick since the beginning of since the project restart. Do you think Lindelof might stay next season, or do you see somebody else replacing him?
Yeah, I think he's definitely up for under the microscope, isn't he? But I don't think he's going to be sold or anything like that. But I think that they would quite like to bring in a younger defender with potential as well to challenge him. Someone with a bit of pace as well, maybe, who can help alongside him. But I don't think that Koulibaly is an interesting one, because I'm sure some United fans would like them to go for somebody like that. It'd be quite formidable with him and Maguire. But it looks like City are going to try and get him by the looks of things. So whether they make a late bid for that, because the price has come down a little bit. It looks like about 70 million euros. But I think doing that and Sancho is probably out of the question for United, especially given the environment that we're in and everything. That's part of the reason that things are taking a bit longer, I think, because money is an issue even for United.
Exactly, and no matter how, I think I read something a couple of days back that this pandemic situation has taken out bigger organizations than multiple football clubs. So money is certainly one of the issues in this transfer window. I've also heard Van de Beek coming to United. That was one of the strongest links. But now Ronald Koeman has become the manager of Barcelona, and Ronald Koeman, since he was the manager of the Netherlands football team, do you think that changes the complexion of this deal that could have happened?
Yeah,
or it still might happen?
I think Van de Beek is obviously plays very much the same sort of position as Fernandes, isn't he? Really, and they can play a bit further forward. Maybe I just don't see where he really fit in. And like you say, I think Barca have got their sights on him to go there. But he's a really, really exciting player. But adds something a bit different. I think United kind of made the choice there with Fernandes to go for him, and he's obviously doing really well with Pogba there. I think that's another question for United. Actually, I think I noticed that the other night. It struck me that there's no one who in that third midfield role, more defensive midfield role, who you can really trust to keep the ball. And Fred has good qualities definitely, but he's just not really I don't think he's secure enough to play with the other two, Pogba and Fernandes ahead of him. So I think that could be a priority for Solskjaer as well. Somebody like Ndidi maybe would be quite good, I think, but he would cost a lot of money. And, there's not been much about that kind of thing, but somebody of that kind of ilk.
Yeah, so Ndidi, I think Ndidi is a good destroyer kind of a thing, and we already have Manchester United already have McTominay.
Yeah, so, that's true. He is good. I think maybe they could try to make that position his, because he's got the qualities to do that. I think definitely. But he's also, he's not just a holding player. He can play a bit further forward and score goals as well. So it's kind of it'll be interesting to see how they use McTominay, because he's definitely, he's come on a lot, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And with Ole joining since last season, I think a lot of its players have been sent abroad and sold. And do you think so? Like, this has actually cleared the clutter, as we say it, but this also means that the bench has gotten slimmer. So, do you think the bench that has been the problem for Manchester United? Do you think that selling these players, as well as people see and look at this as a very positive thing done by Ole? Do you think this could have affected the season and its growth?
I don't know. I think the squad was pretty bloated. I think that up front, actually, that's the problem. That if they don't sign Sancho, they certainly are a bit short in the forward department. I think that was, Dan James is struggled a little bit, didn't he? And Agallo, whether he's going to be there next year, I'm not sure. So yeah, that would be an area to strengthen. But I think midfield actually is looking quite well stocked. I would like to see them, maybe bring in a specialist for that position, as I said before. But yeah, I think the priority is to bring in sort of quality over quantity now, really.
Exactly, and also United have faced some problems signing the players that we already have, with Angel Gomez and even Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba, I think, signed another contract recently, but the words are there. But I think we do struggle signing players, tying down our own players. Do you think it can be one of the concerns in the club?
Keeping players for a long time, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of mistakes made there, haven't there, in the last few years? Obviously, Sanchez, that was the high-profile one in the last few weeks, which has been resolved. And I think there's obviously a determination to not let that happen again. And Solskjaer has obviously put the emphasis on youth as well, which is really good for United fans. I think it's very exciting just to hopefully try and get the squad even younger and seen how well that they've all adapted to it so quickly. Obviously Mason Greenwood and Brandon Williams. So yeah, it's really exciting time. I think that if they did bring in somebody like Sancho, it'd be really exciting to see a young player, entrusted. He's a very mature sort of character, and I think he would do really well. He would sort of thrive under that pressure.
So the incoming of, just now you mentioned Mason Greenwood. Greenwood has shown qualities of a top player in the last couple of months, at least before after the lockdown. And Sancho coming in makes his position go into a kind of a threat. So, do you think it can either help the growth or make Mason Greenwood go to the fringes of the team? Do you think would it affect that the incoming of Sancho?
It'd be interesting to see how they use it, because obviously it leaves kind of, you'd have thought, well, Martial and Rashford could play as the number 9. Or even Greenwood potentially could play as the number 9, but Sancho's going to play wide. But I think having 4 is the ideal situation. I mean, I remember when Solskjaer was playing, and I'm sure Man United fans of a certain age will remember, the team that won the Champions League in 1999 had 4 out-and-out strikers, really, with Sheringham, Solskjaer, Cole and York. Yeah. And that's the kind of firepower I think that you need. Well, you maybe not like that anymore, but you need maybe 5 for those 3 positions that are almost the same quality, ideally, if you can. 4 of a similar quality is really good as well to have. If you're missing 1, it doesn't really matter that much. So, and it looks like really exciting if they could get those 4 together. That could be a really great link up between them.
Exactly, and since since the times of the transfer window, the transfer market, the way Manchester United handle it, it has changed, evolved from the time of Peter Kenyon to the days of Ed Woodward right now. Do you think what are the notable changes that you have seen during this time?
Sorry, say that again, please.
The transfer strategy, the transfer window, handling the transfer market, since the days of Peter Kenyon to the time of Ed Woodward, have you noticed any major change?
Oh yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before with Sanchez, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, wasn't it? But there's been some, it's been pretty bad over the last few years under Woodward. I think they've kind of lost their touch. I remember, under Ferguson, they always would have a big signing lined up for the end of the season, and everyone would, which was quite frustrating, I think, for a lot of the other clubs, because United had it all planned out. They'd win the title and have and announce the next signing for the next season, and that kind of succession just hasn't been there the last few years. Which it must be frustrating, because it's the club that can afford to pay the big money. But at the same time, I think that that clubs do take advantage, or try to take advantage of that. And, we've seen it with a number of situations now, with Harry Maguire and with Fernandes, and now with Sancho, where the club holds out for the top price because it's Man United, really, and there's a premium that they have to pay just because of who they are, which makes things difficult for them. So I suppose you have to have a bit of sympathy in that respect.
Exactly. And what is the situation of? See, there are so many players on the fringes of the club that even mentioning one person once takes a lot of time. And this player again, Diego Dallo, he came in with a lot of promise. He has a good right foot. He can cross the ball into the danger areas. But I don't think we have seen enough of him yet. So do you think that Dallo will remain in the club, or what is the scene with him? It's really difficult. It's really confusing at times.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not sure. I haven't seen too much of him, to be honest, but I think they definitely would like someone to put pressure on Wan-Bissaka, because he's had a reasonably good first season. I think there's a bit of frustration about him going forward. If you compare him to Trent Alexander-Arnold, but at Liverpool, that there's no comparison. But then that's a harsh comparison to make, because they're not the same player, and he's probably a much better defender. So he is a much better defender. So it's a difficult one. I think it's good to have young backups. That's what Solskjaer will want. He'll want, ideally, Brandon Williams can play right back as well, can't he? I think so. He'll want someone else as well to be pushing through to push those guys.
And
as well as Dallo, potentially. I'm not sure about the situation. He's pretty young too, isn't he? So not too early to write him off.
Yeah, that is exactly. The transfer window is getting really messy right now, because the thing that I have noticed after watching some of the games, when Shaw plays, Rashford is a completely different beast. But when you patch him up with Williams, Rashford does look a bit out of touch. How would you understand this?
Yeah, I think Williams, he's right-footed, isn't he, Williams, and he's playing left-back. It shows he's a good player. He can do that. I think Shaw, I've always liked Shaw, and I think that he's the man in possession of left-back, and he should be there for quite a few years to come if he can fulfil his potential, which he's done at times, but not enough, probably. I've watched him when he was very young, and he's a fantastic player in his youth, and he's had a tricky time at Old Trafford, but I think Solskjaer quite likes him, but obviously Brandon Williams as well, he really likes him as well. It's an interesting battle. I think that they might look at a possible left back as well to put a bit of pressure on Shaw, someone with a left foot, because it's quite important to have that balance in the team.
Exactly. And with the players now so that we are talking about the left side of the pitch, Tai Chong is another very exciting player. So he's been loaned out, and we also have a couple of other players loaned to different clubs. So how does this thing work? This loaning out. How does the club actually understand which player to loan out, which player to keep in the first team? Is there any parameter for that?
Well, I I'm sure that Solskjaer would have had a say in Chong being allowed to go, and it's a good move, but it's going to like a lower the Bundesliga, but like teams in the bottom half, and probably have a good chance to play there. It's sort of loan that if he does well there, then it's kind of proof that you're almost ready to play for the first team. But he was tipped to be sort of one of the real stars, wasn't he, a couple of years ago? And it's not the same thing to be, because it's people develop at different times, and obviously Greenwood's come through, and means that there's not really a place in that position. And but there's a good chance he could thrive over there. It's a really important time in a young player's career, I think, when you're sort of 19, 20. It's make or break in a way, or you can really thrive and seize your moment.
Yeah, exactly. And there are a couple of other things to look into, like the growth of the player. I think Mason Greenwood has grown really strong since the lockdown in the last 3 months, and he can shoot with both of his legs, and that makes him an exceptional talent. He's just 17 or 18, I guess, and even now he is gaining attention of multiple clubs around the world. So, do you think that there is something about Mason Greenwood that sets him apart from the rest of the players, rest of the the team?
Yeah, I think he looks really exciting. I said that is the thing, really. The left and right foot. It doesn't look like he's got one of them stronger than the other one. He scored goals with both feet, and like really quick, like a powerful shot off a short back lift, and like quick. And he looks like he can play in any position up front as well. Apparently, he can play in the middle as a striker as well, and maybe as a bit deeper, probably as a number 10, I would imagine. So he's got that all-round ability. I think he looks like he's got a lot of awareness as well. So yeah, he's really exciting. I just wondered about the hype, because there's been so much hype about him, and it's really tough when you come, especially because he's been a star in the team, I think, but he's not been like some players who are always the star, like from a very young age. He's come very quickly in the last 12 months, like 2 years, I think, and it's just about keeping his feet on the ground. I don't know if you remember, after one game, Solskjaer said, it was an interesting thing that he said about how he's got to take it a bit more seriously or something like that, and he needs to come, be serious about training and that sort of thing. Whether it was a warning or not, I'm not so sure about that, but just a sort of reminder that you've got to keep your feet on the ground, not get too carried away, because it is easy to when you're that age and you're scoring goals for Man United. It must be, imagine what it's like. So the attention and everything. So yeah, it's important that he just keeps doing what he's doing.
And that is very important. Now, okay, like we have had enough discussion about Manchester United, but the one last question: which of these players do you think might your personal favorite among all the players that you have seen through the years in Manchester United? Because we're going to talk about your book next. I'm really interested in that. So yeah.
Well, in terms of African players, which my book is about, unfortunately there's not been that many African players at Old Trafford. But I've always had a soft spot for Quinton Fortune, who was at Old Trafford, and I mentioned the 1999 team earlier, and I think he was on the bench for that team. And actually, I think I always liked Dwight York from back in the day. He was really great, and that team was really a really good team in 1999. A really memorable night. I'll never forget that game against Bayern Munich. So yeah, I enjoy watching York and Cole, and I see a few comparisons, the way that that front three are linking up together, especially Martial and Rashford have got that, like the goal that he scored the other night with Martial's pass was sorry, that was for the penalty, wasn't it? For the Martial's pass,
yeah.
Brilliant pass. And I think he's very impressive at the moment. Martial, always liked him ever since he came on the scene. He just looks like he's very graceful with the ball, and it's good that he's found a position.
Exactly. And to think about it, there has been a lot of African strikers that have played really well. A lot of the players from Africa have become really good strikers in the Premier League. Do you think there is a reason for that? Do you think there has been something in the nature and in the nourishment in the African players that has helped them become really good strikers in the Premier League?
Well, strikers specifically, you mean, rather than any other position?
No, like forwards.
Yeah.
Going forward,
I think I'm not sure exactly why, but yeah, I think it's it's obviously like the most glamorous position to play, and but there's been great African players of all positions, but I don't know. There has been a trend of sort of and Didier Drogba was like one of the most famous ones, and everyone's talking about Leeds v Liverpool today, the first game of the new season, which is going to be the Tony Yeboah game. Everyone remembers him from back in the day, the goal he scored against Liverpool. So yeah, and obviously now we have Salah, Mane, and Aubameyang, who won the Golden Boot last season, doing really well. And so I don't know. There is certainly something about African strikers who have. I think generally though, African players have a lot of hunger to make it in whatever league, and often have to really battle to make it. So that maybe gives them an edge sometimes.
And these see when I read about your book, when I was trying to understand it, I found out that you have actually done a considerable amount of research to understand the players, which is very difficult at times, which is absolutely difficult, because understanding the way you have done it, it takes a lot of reading, it takes a lot of calculations and a lot of understanding of the game itself. Now, looking at the players who are presently in the Premier League, I think Mane is there, I think Aubameyang is there, and Salah is there. But is there any one player? Is there any one? I know that this Liverpool team is really strong, and Arsenal, Aubameyang is doing great for Arsenal. But is there one player, one African player in the history of the Premier League whom you would actually pay to watch, apart from these three?
There's the obvious one is JJ Okocha. He's for Bolton and Nigeria. And he was just unbelievable. If you've never heard of him or seen him before, just look up some of the YouTube videos. In fact, videos were probably made for JJ Okocha. Some of the skills that he...
It was really exciting, with all the tricks and the skills.
Unbelievable. So in terms of paying to watch, definitely him. But there's been so many iconic players from Africa, and it's really great to see the legacy that they've created, with the modern players.
And is there anything, since Africa is also a developing nation, and so is India, and India are trying to get ahead with the football, and since you are acquainted with the Indian culture, you've been here before, is there any message that you have for the young kids watching this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you should believe in yourself. You never know; it's possible. You look at there's a few. There are some Asian Indian players that are starting to make an impact, and just because there's not been many Indian players so far in the Premier League is not to say that can happen. And you mentioned I went to India. I was very impressed with the Indian Premier League setup. When I saw it, I didn't go there to a match or anything, but I met one of the teams at the airport. It was not Mumbai. Excuse me. It was down south. I'm trying to remember what they were called.
Chennai Super Kings.
Yes, it was Chennai Super Kings. Yes, thank you. It was Chennai. Sorry, just had a complete mind blank. But I met a guy who used to play for Brighton, who I was talking to him about it, and he was telling me how great it was, that he was really enjoying it. It's a couple of years ago now, but the fans, they have some good fans, don't they? I think
they do. They're crazy fans.
There's a culture building up there. Anyway, was my point really, and that's important. I think that. It's becoming a really global game, and I know that there's loads of interest in the Premier League in India as well, and that's really great. And it's great that all the fans show their support, even though the teams are so far away. But it's great everyone can follow it now with TV and everything, and Twitter and social media.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. It was great having you. But one thing before we end this session. It's sometimes when we actually watch Manchester United play, it gets us like it gives us a feeling like it's a club so far away. And the moment we speak to you, the moment we speak to you guys, you and the other people who are so closely associated with the clubs, who live there, who almost know everybody in the club, it gives us a really eerie kind of feeling. So I would just like to ask you anything, any moment, any such feeling that you have that you might want to share with us.
Oh yeah, I mean we're all really privileged to live here. I think we, sometimes take it for granted that we're, working in the Premier League and stuff like that, and you don't appreciate like around the world what it means that And actually, one of the biggest moments I would say, Manchester United connected. And in my book, I talk a lot about the Olympics. At the 2012 Olympics, I was based in Manchester actually, and I worked at Old Trafford, and I was lucky enough to go to training sessions where, Sadio Mane was there for Senegal, and Mohamed Salah was there for Egypt, and they were teenagers still. But also Brazil were there, and I got to see Neymar in the flesh and watch him play, and also I got to go around Old Trafford when there was no one else there, and I went into, he was still the manager at the time, so I went into Sir Alex Ferguson's office just to have a little peek and see it myself, and I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty amazing that I'm here and there's no one else around and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean it's amazing if you get the chance to go to Old Trafford. It's still even though it could do with a bit of refurbishment probably because it's getting a bit old now, but it's still really impressive to go to a match there. It's really an experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing so many stories with us. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.